Okay, so this is part 2 of the video of infection and response. In the last video, we planned for this question. We organized our knowledge, and then we'll carry on in this video now writing our answer. So I'm going to follow the same structure in which I did my plan. We've organized our knowledge, so it is clear to the examiner that we understand exactly how pathogens are prevented from entering, and once they do enter, how our body is going to fight it back. So I'm going to start by talking about skin. In your answer, you don't have to write as a paragraph where you've got a continuation of sentences. You could essentially just write smaller paragraphs where you are organizing all of your knowledge. You do not have to write in full sentences in continuation. As long as your knowledge is on paper, and on paper it's organized and it's in detail, you are still able to secure all of those marks. So I'm going to talk about the skin first. I'm going to talk about how the skin acts as a barrier. And in acting as a barrier, it is able to prevent the pathogens from entering. It's 6 marks and it's a describe question. So I'm going to continue with more detail, and I've picked a red pen so we can show, so we can see exactly where the extra marks are coming from in terms of detail. So we've talked about the skin being a barrier and preventing these pathogens, but the skin also is able to do this job by producing sebum. So our skin has sebaceous glands which produce these oils, and this repels the pathogen. Our skin also works very quickly or rapidly with platelets to form a scab over a cut. This scab means that it's, again, that broken barrier has been sealed and we can stop any bacteria again entering. So that's all my knowledge about skin. Moving on to the prevent still, I'm going to talk about the stomach now. And we know the stomach from our digestion topic, we know the stomach produces hydrochloric acid. This hydrochloric acid is able to kill the bacteria in our food, and therefore stopping it passing into the small intestine and being passed over onto our bloodstream where it can cause more damage. So the hydrochloric acid will kill the bacteria in our food. That's all about the prevent stage, how we've got the non-specific barrier methods. There are other methods that you might have wanted to talk about, but I'm just going to talk about this. Then I'm going to move on to now how your body is able to defend itself against pathogens. To get all 6 marks, we need to talk about both. So I'm now going to move over onto the white blood cells. With our white blood cells, I'm going to first talk about phagocytes. So phagocytes are a type of blood cell that will surround and engulf the pathogen. Once it's done that, it will release enzymes, and these enzymes will digest, so break down and essentially kill this pathogen, stopping it from stopping it from causing further damage within our body. I'm also going to talk about, so that's just one type of white blood cells, but for describe and for detail, I'm going to talk also about lymphocytes, which is another type of white blood cell. These lymphocytes produce antitoxins. Antitoxins are something that will neutralize the toxins that are produced by bacteria. And in doing so, it stops the bacteria causing us any other damage. But lymphocytes don't only just produce antitoxins, lymphocytes will also produce antibodies. These antibodies are specific to the antigen presented on the pathogen. And so in doing so, it will recognize this antigen and it is able to kill the pathogen, preventing further damage. So that's question 4. Question 3, sorry. Question 4 is pancreatic cancer develops when a malignant tumor grows inside the pancreas. The pancreas produces digestive enzymes. So this question is one where we need to understand firstly, what the role of the pancreas is inside our body. We need to understand what cancer is, what tumor is, and what malignant is. So there's a few key subject-specific words. Just reading the question, your brain is now expanding into all of these little mind maps, and you're thinking about all the things that you remember already. So cancer, we know, is uncontrollable cell division. A tumor is this mass of cells that have grown. So once this uncontrollable cell division, these cells now divide and they form a tumor, which is a mass, it's tissue of these cells. Malignant is a type of tumor, type of cancer that can spread. So the cancerous cells from the malignant tumor, they can break off of this malignant tumor travel into the bloodstream and then metastasize somewhere else where they can then form a cancer. So these are the cells that can spread. Pancreas, we know, is an organ that has a role within insulin production, glucagon production, but also digestion. So it produces those digestive enzymes, which then will go to the small intestine, but equally it has a role in insulin and glucagon production. So hormone is an endocrine organ too. That's all your knowledge that you already know. When it comes to the question, we now need to pick the knowledge that is applicable to the question only. Often we just, if we are just recalling this knowledge and we're writing it down, we're just doing a brain dump. We're not quite answering the question. We're not answering this question. So the pancreas produces digestive enzymes. Despite it talking about cancer, malignant tumor, we are interested into this aspect here right now. So we're only going to mention what an enzyme is. We know that an enzyme is a chemical, and this chemical speeds up reactions. So it will speed up a chemical reaction. A chemical, this in the form of an enzyme, it's a biological catalyst. So remember that chemicals that speed up a reaction are catalyst, as this is one that's found in living things. It's a biological catalyst. And it is specific to a substrate. We know it's made out of protein too. B talks about carbohydrase, is an enzyme produced by the pancreas. Name 2 other organs in the digestive system that produce carbohydrase. Anything that ends in ase is an enzyme, and carbohydrases are enzymes that participate in the digestion of carbohydrates. So we're talking about starch and glucose, for example, and we know the enzyme that is going to be digesting these carbohydrates. We know this enzyme is amylase, and amylase is something that is produced in the salivary glands and in the small intestine. Because the question specifically says organ, if we was to say mouth, we would not get the mark. We need to specifically name the organ in the mouth, which is salivary gland. So we need to be specific to get our second mark there. This again is a longer answer question now. So one symptom of pancreatic cancer is weight loss. Explain how pancreatic cancer may cause a person to lose weight. Again, as you're reading this question, you've got multiple mind maps now forming in your mind. So we've got first, all the knowledge that we know about pancreas, everything we know about cancer, losing weight. So in this question, we're going to need to talk about the role of the pancreas, or at least understand the role of the pancreas. We need to understand cancer, in how cancer, again, is that uncontrollable cell division. But then how does this uncontrollable cell division affect the role of the pancreas and stop it doing its role in digestion? To then be able to understand that losing weight, we need to apply both of those aspects to digestion of food in the context of losing weight. It specifically asks us not to talk about hormones, so we're not talking about the digestion of the metabolism of glucose here, so we don't need to talk about insulin and glucagon. So first, if we start by doing a plan, and we start talking about the pancreas, we know that the pancreas is an organ which will produce digestive juices. These digestive juices contain the enzymes, and then in the small intestine, these participate in the digestion of the large insoluble food molecules into smaller soluble food molecules that can then diffuse into the small intestine. And then we'll talk about in detail what each one is and how that's going to connect into how that's going to then cause a person, result in a person losing weight because of them not being able to digest their food. Again, how we organize our knowledge is really important to make sure that we're able to secure all of the marks for four marks we need to get. We need to explain. When we explain, that means that any point we make here, any of these points, we then need to tie back into how that causes the person to lose weight. So explaining, so you're going to describe exactly what this role is, but then how does that result in a person losing weight? So due to cancer, so this person has cancer, their pancreas is not well, their pancreas is not working very well. The pancreas is not able to produce the digestive enzymes. That gets us 1 mark, so that is a mark. It's recognizing the role of digestion there. We need to explain, and we need to do that in detail. So we now need to explain how this means that they're going to lose weight without these enzymes. The food that we eat is not fully digested. That gets us another mark. Because this food is not fully digested, so therefore, less glucose is available for respiration now. So starch in their digestive system wasn't fully digested into the glucose, didn't fully diffuse into the blood, and they don't now have enough glucose in their bloodstream, which means there now isn't as much respiration taking place, and therefore not enough energy is released. We know that this energy is required for all of the other reactions that happen in our body. So that's one. Another point that I'm going to talk about again, because of this cancer, the pancreas not being able to produce the digestive enzymes. We talked about the enzyme digesting glucose, but glucose isn't the only large insoluble molecule that we need to digest. Protein is also something that we now need to digest. So, also, fewer amino acids pass into the bloodstream because the protein in our diet is not fully broken down. So we're eating protein, but our pancreas is unwell. It's not producing enough digestive enzymes, and therefore we're not fully able to break that protein into the amino acids. I'm going to further explain how this causes a person to lose weight. So how does them not having enough amino acid means that they lose weight? I'm going to show the examiner that I know that amino acids are essential for, but again, making protein in our body, and therefore the muscle, our muscle mass. That is all of my knowledge about pancreas, but that's not the only reason why a person might lose weight if they've got pancreatic cancer. They've got pancreatic cancer, their pancreas is unwell. But we also know that cancer, one of the treatments for cancer is chemotherapy. And we know that if the person is undergoing chemotherapy, they will have loss of appetite. And because of this loss of appetite, they will naturally have a less intake of food. So they're not eating enough. And those points would also be a mark there.